course. Wonderful. Excellent. Yeah. Thought-provoking. Yeah. Personally, I feel this way too, thought-provoking and also eye-opening. Impressive, yes. Realization, yes, yes. I experienced that too. Thankful, thank you. We are thankful to have you here too. Awesome, okay. Wow, yes, this is very simple word, but it describes our feelings very well. Knowledgeable, okay. Insightful, amazing, and inspiring, I think is some popular words from the participants. So engaging, yeah, okay, thank you. Resourceful, okay. Reflective, yes. New learning experience, of course. So for those of you who have just joined us, you may go to menti.com by entering the code on the screen, or you may as well click the link in the chat box and answer to the question of, if you could write your impression about this summer course in 3 words, what would it be? I think we still have 1 minute for your response. Awesome, thank you, Ro. All right. So for any one of you who still wants to share with us, please, you may go to menti.com and enter the code on the screen or click the link prompted by our committee in the chat box. So mingle with others, yes, of course, networking, yeah. Wonderful, insightful, amazing, okay. Great, okay. I think there's no more new answers. So I think we can stop sharing the Menti letter for now. But for any one of you who still wants to share with us, please do so, as we still open the Mentimeter until the end of today's session. So please feel free to share with us about your thoughts or your impression of this year's International Online Summer Course by held by Center for Lifespan Development Universitas Gadjah Mada. Okay, thank you everyone for your participations, and thank you for dropping your sweet thoughts and kind words as well in the Mentimeter. We greatly appreciate your thoughtfulness and kind words, and we greatly appreciate your presence here with us this evening from Indonesia. So once again, I welcome you in day 1 of student-led conference of the International Online Summer Course on Disability and Lifespan Development, Indonesia and Global Perspective. Before we begin, I would like to remind all the participants that the language used in this International Online Summer Course is English. So for those of you who need assistance in expressing questions or ideas or comments, opinions in English, please contact the student liaison during the session, as they will assist you in translating the question. English captioning is also available. So for those of you who need this feature, please turn on the CC icon at the bottom of your screen. To introduce myself, my name is Kuni Aisyah Hadbah. You may call me Kuni. I am the master of ceremony for today's session, and I will be assisting you for the opening and closing of today's student-led conference. Before we move on, we would like to have a photo session with all of you. So please, if you could turn on your camera if possible, because we'll have our photo session today, and I will lead our photo session. We're still waiting for some of you to open your cameras. I see familiar faces already. We have 2 pages. I think we can start. Okay, wait. I still see some of you trying to open your camera. All right, we have 2 pages, so I hope you can maintain your smile for a while. I will lead the photo session. We'll start with page 1. 1, 2, 3. All right, page 2. 1, 2, 3. All right, perfect. Thank you very much for your participation and your cooperation. So in today's session, we will have 4 groups presenting their research ideas. And I believe we will have group 2, group 5, group 6, and group 7 for today's student-led conference. And the rest of the 4 groups are going to present their research ideas on 14th of October 2021. And as for today's session, we'll have our lovely Dr. Praditya Pertiwi chairing the conference. I believe you are familiar with her already, as she had been an amazing moderator several times in our past lectures. And I think without further ado, because I believe you are more than excited already to welcome amazing presenters with their insightful ideas, I call Dr. Praditya Pertiwi to take over. To Dr. Ditya, you may do so.
Thank you very much, Tony, for the wonderful opening, as well as leading us to capture the impression of the participants about the summer course that you have, perhaps we have experienced so far. So I believe that we are all having shared experience as well as impression about the summer course. And for me, especially perhaps on behalf of the committee of the International Online Summer Course on Disability and Lifespan Development, Bu Elga and Bu Wuri, we are very excited that we finally arrived today in this day, a very special day to celebrate all your achievements and the learning that we hope you have experienced for the past 2.5 months. So we are very happy knowing that the impression that you type on the Mentimeter, but also the report and stories from the student committees as well as participants, that the summer course so far has given you a new platform to interact with each other and network. So I have seen new network built between participants and speakers, even participants and participants themselves. So especially when preparing for this last assignment on the student-led conference assignments, you've all working together, respect each other, and learn from one another to come with shared ideas on a particular issues about disability and lifespan development. And why we are very excited, because this topic hasn't been widely discussed in the field of disability, as well as in psychology. So your work from all the groups today have contributed to build a new discourse that hopefully will contribute to make little changes or a positive or constructive changes into the topic of disability and in the lifespan development perspective particularly. So I'm very excited to welcome you all here today, especially the 4 groups who will present their work. So for the other groups that might not present today, you are very welcome to give feedback or ask questions and provide constructive comments or feedback to your fellow participants. So it can be benefited to improve the quality of the proposal or mini research design. Okay, so please feel free. You will be given time to ask questions after each presenter or each group are finished with their presentation. All right, so let's start the presentation for today. I will invite the first group, the lucky first group who will present their work, group 2. So Nanda Agastya Wardana, Siti Nur Aisyah binti Yusof, Rinaldi Ridwan, Sukma Intan Citra, and Anissa Safa Regina. Please, the time is yours.
I'll just ask permission to share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Okay, I think my group member, Shafa, can open this presentation, and and each one of us will hopefully take turns to explain.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Nanda. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Indonesia. We are from Group 2, and we are going to present our research proposal. And the title of our research is Understanding Psychological Well-being of Adolescents with Disability During COVID-19 Pandemic in Indonesia. And our group members are Nanda Agastya, Siti Nur Aisyah, Rinaldi Ridwan, Sukma Intan, and Anissa Safa. And also our student liaison is Gloria Stella. Next. Okay, in this presentation, we will explain 3 main points of this proposal. And first of all is research background. And the next is research aim and question. And the last one is methodology and research design. Next. Okay, talking about the introduction, as we know right now that the emergence of the COVID-19 pandemic and the decision of the government to get locked down may harm the mental health of some vulnerable groups, and especially adolescents with disability. And after doing some literature review, we have found a fact that there is a few data that explains the impact of the pandemic on adolescents with disabilities, especially on their well-being.
And I think our group member Aisha will explain about this.
Okay, hello, good evening, everybody. First of all, I apologize for not able to open my camera. Okay, our research aim is to understand the current situation of psychological well-being of adolescents with disabilities in Indonesia. Secondly, is to understand the experience of adolescents with disabilities during the pandemic. Lastly, is to develop a better intervention in addressing disabled adolescents' psychological well-being during and post the pandemic. Okay, as for our research question, is about how is the psychological well-being of adolescents with disabilities during the pandemic. Second is how is the experience of adolescents with disability during the pandemic. Third, what can be done to better address the psychological well-being of adolescents with disabilities during the pandemic. That's all from me. I leave it to the next presenter.
Therefore, based on the review of literatures that we have been researching in the past 10 days, is we understand that number one, adolescence is a critical part of the human lifespan development. It is at a critical stage, firstly because adolescence is a stage where puberty happens. Puberty changes emotional and psychological stages of adolescence, where they might be prone to be sensitive to social cues and also to interactions such as friendships and how they want to understand themselves. I think this is a stage where people might have a certain identity crisis. And at the same time, adolescents with a disability during a pandemic is another condition that we must be concerned of. Firstly, because the research has mentioned that adolescents with disabilities might experience more stress and anxiety, is firstly because mostly they have been staying at home more than any other adolescents. Because in my understanding and experience as well, when you have a child with disability, mostly there are inclination that they might not go out very much, because that's what I see from myself and my other friends as well, that even if it's not the pandemic, they've been staying at home a lot of times, and mostly they have small circles compared to any other adolescent. And at the same time, the recent study has revealed that pandemic impacts increased risk for their health as well. Firstly, because of the lockdown, they cannot get their, let's say, follow-up appointments with their doctor, because it becomes very difficult to get that health service. And at the same time, data on the adolescents in Indonesia is, I mean, about people with disabilities is not very much stated, I would say, because from the previous lectures that I've seen as well in this summer course, that actually we don't have much data on how many people with disability living in Indonesia, let alone we can put data on how many adolescents like in this age group, how many they are, and so forth. Therefore, the research from other countries states that mental health is also a major issue in terms of adolescents living with disability as well, because even if they doesn't have a certain disability, they are already a susceptible group. That's why we think that psychological well-being is an important topic to be researched in this proposal. Sorry. And also, last but not least, the understanding that COVID-19 pandemic has affected them in a lot of aspects. Firstly, this group are restricted from meeting with their friends and connected socially, and also in line with my explanation before, that most children with disabilities, they might not have a lot of friends, and therefore it may result them in poorer psychological well-being compared to any other young people. And but then the COVID-19 pandemic has given a certain limelight to mental health as well, and there are a lot of online mental health services that actually people can sought to get mental health services. But again, accessibility for these particular services in our country is not very much prominent. So yeah, that's another issue pertaining psychological well-being. And then this is the methodology and the design of our research. Firstly, our research setting will be conducted in Indonesia, possibly in Yogyakarta, because we are very inspired from OGM, I would say, for this particular being able to help such summer course. And also the research design is qualitative design. We are more inclined to use phenomenology in this particular research proposal, mostly because we want to get more data, more than just numbers. We want to understand people's experience. Therefore, we use qualitative design. And the participants, mostly adolescents, that we might get from a certain circle of our network, such as schools, teachers, parents, and other local disability organizations, if that allowed. And we would ask University of Gajah Mada to help us with ethical consideration as well, because we understand when we are choosing a research participant with people who are under 18 years old might raise another ethical issue, such as we need consent from their parents or a guardian for their participation in our research. And the data analysis, we will interview the participants, obviously, and then the interview summary sheet will be made where we will make key concepts and ideas about what we have obtained from the interviews, and we will conduct thematic analysis after we got a certain amount of data from the interviews. And these are our references. I think we're very lucky which is COVID-19. Therefore, our references are a little bit more current. And yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And if there's any questions or any feedback, we would really love to hear them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nanda and Group 2. Perhaps we can give a virtual applause to Group 2 presentation. And I see in the chat that Bapak Rinaldi Ridwan is very excitedly supporting the other group members. Pak Rinaldi, you'd like to also open your mic and perhaps share the process of developing this topic or research proposal?
Okay, thank you, Ibu Ditya. Thank you so much for the encouragement for our groups. So in our groups, we're pretty lucky to have the composition of our groups that we consist of different background and multi-country, so that we can share different experiences, for our proposal. So when we start to develop the proposal, what we think first was to really because it was initially by children, but then we think that children is very much diverse group. It can be really a newborn, it can be under 5, it can be children, it can be adolescents. So we decide that lots of issues might arise if we go into, like, for example, under 5 or young children. So we decide that to go into adolescents, into adolescents, because it's really a transitional period, and then the ethical issues is there, but then there's not it's not that complicated compared to under 5 or young children. That's the first one, when we decide on which group to select. And the second one is when we decide to go into this, we also what we determine first is what's the research objective. What do we really want to achieve? What do we want to, what's our aim in conducting this research? Because the situation is there. So what we want to know is how's the pandemic affecting adolescents with disability, particularly with the under the pandemic. And then also initially most of us agree on quantitative approach, but then I said to them, like, in quantitative, well, even though I'm from qualitative, I'm very much for qualitative. What I said to the rest of the group was, if we want to go into qualitative, then we need to really have a strong literature review, like, for example, the parameter, like the indicators. I think if we're not really that familiar with the issues yet, then we should go into qualitative, like, we should let ourselves to really, to really let ourselves surrounded by the data, just explore what we will see, throughout the research. So that's why we decide to go with the qualitative. for some of our members, it's quite a new approach. But I convinced them like, let's go with qualitative, because we can really, I don't think we have sufficient time to go into thorough literature review to find really, like for example, a good parameter, or a good measurement tools for quantitative. So yeah, that's the process in our group. Nanda, probably as the team leader, wants to add more on this.
Mostly, I think Mas Rinaldi is the team leader.
No, it's you.
But I think we're quite happy with our work, although I understand that there's a lot of things maybe we need to work on in this proposal. But I'm so happy that we are so compact, everyone. Yeah, and personally, if I can, I want to thank Mbak Elga for helping introducing me to this course as well. So yeah, I'm so happy to be in the part of this group and this course. Thank you.
Always. Thank you very much, Pak Rinaldi and Nanda, for sharing the behind the scenes story of this project proposal. I'm very happy to hear that a more experienced researcher like Pak Rinaldi.
We are glad that you can join us today. We are from Group 8.
Sorry. I think Group 8 is very excited to present their project. However, you still have 2 more days, Group 8, to practice and I think presenting or perhaps revising the videos if you'd like. So perhaps if anyone else would like to provide or ask question or provide feedback to Group 2's proposal, we still have, I think, around 10 minutes for question and answer as well as discussion. Yes, Ibu Wiri, please.
Okay, thank you very much for the great idea from Group 2 for your presentation. It's a very interesting topic that can be continued, I think. So my first question is, I couldn't get the point why your research will be conducted in Indonesia, particularly in Jogja. I think you have to some justification, the reason why you will conduct this research in Indonesia. And then the second question is why phenomenology? Because if we are looking at qualitative research, there are many approaches such as case study or even grounded theory or any other approaches. But why phenomenology? Thank you.
Yes, firstly, I think why is it in Yogyakarta? Because as when we see from the continuation of this course, I kind of think that there are a lot of organizations that maybe we can ask UGM to help. So like approach this kind of organization, such as maybe in my thinking was maybe Elga School or those kind of stuff can really be like the parameter for the research. And also, yeah, I think I might not have a lot of big justification because I'm sorry that I don't have a lot of time to think about it. But then
I can add on that.
Yeah, we can add on that. Actually, in Jakarta also there's a lot of organizations that maybe we can tap into, but that's just one of the gut feeling at that time, or maybe we can do it in Yogyakarta. It's just our impulsive knowledge at that time.
Sorry, yeah, Mbak Wuri, to add what Nanda has said, the decision to have Indonesia and Yogyakarta, because we feel that whenever we want to include a specific marginalized group in the research, we should have really meaningful engagement from the group itself. And then at this context, we believe that the group that might be, that might support, at this stage, we believe that it is crucial to involve disability rights organizations, because that's the organization will have the constituents from the disabled person, including young people. So yeah, that's justification. So we use the justification of NGO that are working on this, so that our research can be really have a strong sense of belonging, not only from the academic point of view, but also from the community point of view. So that's actually in our long proposal, but then we didn't put it in the proposal because we need to cut some words, but that's what we plan initially, yeah, for that. And then the second is the when we talk about the phenomenology, because when we talk about qualitative research, there are some method that we can use actually, like ethnography, phenomenology, or probably case study. But then as this is the very specific to adolescents, adolescents experiences during the pandemic, and then adolescents with disability. So we believe that, we think that phenomenology, as it will try to really, ask the living experience, to ask how young adolescent face the life, they face the challenge and on their daily lives. So phenomenology is the approach that we think that might be, the one that that will be fit to this, to our aim and objective in understanding what adolescents experiences. That's the justification.
Okay. Can I just give you some a bit suggestion about the justification why you choose Yogyakarta? So I think the most important issue when we choose our object is based on what is the issue or the main idea. So your main idea is the psychological well-being faced by adolescents. So I think if you choose the Jogja, then I think you have to explain from the perspective of psychological well-being, most probably, because your issue is on this. So maybe you can emphasize on the situation faced by adolescents with disability, particularly on psychological well-being, and then the number, maybe the number in Yogyakarta is higher compared to other places or something like this. This is my point of view. Thank you.
I'm so happy to get this feedback actually, because I think a good proposal is those who have good feedbacks as well. Thank you, Ibu Wuri, for the feedback.
Thank you, Buri, for that, and also explanation from group 2. I see Ro also raises a hand. Please, Ro.
Hi, thank you. A brilliant presentation from Group 2. Thank you very, very much for that. Question 1 had effectively answered my question 1. My question 2 effectively a comment. It has been covered the reasons of specifically selecting adolescents as the focus group or research subjects by 2 speakers. Valid in context, in practical context, constraints and such. Like I said, a brilliant research proposal within context, and I think a really good potential perspective extension for possible future reference and such would be to expand to the full age range of I'd say children within a reasonable I'd say maybe 5+, 8+, as we had said. I know that would likely should likely would affect your research methodology and such, and introduce a third party input, as in parents, caregivers, advocates, educators and such. But that would be a really interesting extension for future relevance. For example, my disability advocacy organization didn't do formal research on this, but did hold a formal conference during COVID, focusing on the impacts of the pandemic across the entire spectrum of autism in context of disability impacts of the pandemic. So as much as adolescence is a vital stretch of developmental years. What I'm saying is childhood is an even more vital stretch in terms of early developmental years impacts and such. So like I said, a brilliant context, a brilliant presentation in practical context constraints and such, just a random comment and proposal for future reference. Thank you very much, Group 2. Awesome.
Thank you, Ro, for the comments. If I can give a little bit of justification on that as well, why we are more inclined to adolescents compared to children is, I think, firstly, because of the nature of the research we want to do itself, because the group think that it would be a little bit easier to give like explanation of consent to adolescents compared to children, because when we are researching on children, we need to get some, most of the guardian and family on board as well, and it gives a little bit more of a paperwork in terms of the research procedure, you would say. So yeah, in that area, because I mean, I've worked with I used to be a school counselor. I understand the nitty-gritty of working with children. Therefore, we choose adolescents, in which when we explain about consent and stuff, they get a little bit, we can talk cognitively and understand, okay, this is what we want you to participate in this research. But I do agree that even at first we want to research on children as well, but then I think in terms of research, sometimes you need to be very much specific and understand how much you are like willing to go, how far you're willing to go in your research as well. So I think that's the justification from me and my group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nanda, as well as from a question and appreciation from Ro. I do agree with Ro that this is a very interesting and crucial topic to be explored in this COVID-19 situation, right? And why focusing on adolescents as group to have shared as well. And it is interesting to learn from Ro that Ro and the organization is holding the conference on the impact of COVID-19 to disability, our people with disability. I think it would be interesting to have perhaps this as topic for the next summer course by Elka for focusing on adolescents, because perhaps there are a lot of aspects of adolescents with disabilities life perhaps that could be explored. All right, unfortunately, the time is up for group 2, but please do join me to give virtual applause and appreciation for group 2, great work. And thank you very much, Ibu Wuri and Ro, for providing that feedback. For the next presentation, I will invite group 5. So Anis, Maris, Arifatul, Diani, Dinar, Kevin, Lowell, Saira Hussein, and Selma Mera. The time is yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. We are from Group 5, and today we would like to discuss about our proposal with the title Exploring Employers' Perception on Employability of People with Disabilities in Western and Non-Western Countries. Okay, for the first turn, it will be delivered from our two group member. So maybe Lowell, could you please to start the presentations?
Okay, good evening. can hear my voice?
Yes.
Okay. Before I start our presentation, I would like to introduce myself. I am Lawal Terry from Sultan Idris Education University, Malaysia. Okay. For background, generally, people with disability employability is acknowledged by their employers and co-workers. This happen because employers and co-workers are too empathic and overestimate their capacity to execute the task. But actually, people with disabilities can accomplish given job just like any other worker. So how? Okay. Mostly country have a center that provide program or course for people with disabilities. So they are prepared to invest on their own money to participate in the program or course that they like that. And then uh, the program or course can provide skill and maybe employed later in their career. So next I pass to my friend Howard.
Okay, hello everyone. Do you hear my voice? Okay, I am Arifat Najwa from Sultan Idris Education University, Malaysia. Okay. So the purpose of this qualitative case study that we are doing was to obtain a better understanding of employers' perspective of why PWDs are underrepresented in the labor force when they move from the local educational context to the workforce. Okay. Employers' perception toward PWDs are critical because they have a direct effect on their intention to hire disabled workers. Even in this modern era, when organizations claim to value diversity, hiring discrimination against PWDs persists as sad reality. I believe that this study would give helpful statistical data that will aid in increasing PWDs workforce participation. Okay, so I pass to another friend. Thank you.
Okay, I will read about the literature review since this is my portion. So the employability is defined as the possession of qualities and competency to meet employers' needs. And then it is including the development of skills, knowledge, technology, and adaptability to enter the working lives. The capacity to achieve meaningful employment and exercise agency in order to realize potential. Next slide, please. And some research has indicated that employers doubt to the work-related skill of people with disabilities, such as productivity, work quality, promotability. But however, a study by Ren, Petzol, and Kolela concluded that while hirers were prone to hold negative performance expectation of workers with disabilities, once employed, those with disability generally receive positive performance evaluation. I will directly to continue to the another friend.
Okay, thank you. So let me continue the presentations. So based on our previous explanation, actually we developed these two questions, research question. The first one is about how do employers perceive the employability of people with disabilities, and the second one is what factors influence their perceptions of employability of person with disabilities. So actually our group thinks that employers perceptions has crucial roles, right, in determining whether some prospective employees can be hired or not, especially the person with disabilities. So we want to assess how they perceive the person with a disability, especially related to their employability. And the second one, of course, we want to assess and identify list of factors that we think that can affect the employability of persons with disabilities. To achieve these goals, with the flow of the research method, so actually we think that this research can use an interpretative approach because we want to explore their perceptions. So we think that interpretative can be very suitable to explore the informations. And then we want to interview human resource managers because we need their insight from the organizational and then a managerial perspective. And to conduct the interview, we think that semi-structured interview is the best options. And after we do the interview, we will get the raw data, and then we can transcribe into the verbatim, and then we can do coding process to gain the idea for the whole respondents informations. And then talking about the respondent, actually we don't have specific justifications for this number. We decide around 40 to 60 managers from private or state-owned companies from Western and non-Western. So actually at the beginning we inform you, we want to compare the perspective of employer from Western countries and non-Western countries, and why we divide into whether they are from private or state-owned. Actually, we can refer to especially to Indonesian context that we have the regulations that that requires the private and then state-owned companies to hire people with disabilities. So actually, based on the regulation, they have responsibilities to hire people with disability. However, we want to compare whether there's any different perspective from those from the Western versus the non-Western countries. And for the specific requirement for the managers, we expect that the manager should have experience and authority in the recruitment process because they are the person that have power to decide whether these people with disability are eligible or not to be hired as their employees. So yeah, in terms of the experience, at least they have work experience at least 2 years at the positions. And at the end, we also expected some result from this research, especially for policymakers, prospective employers, prospective employee with disabilities, and also disability organizations. So for the policymakers, we hope that the policymakers can get insight from the employer's perspective because we know that the fact about the I know the policymaker already make the regulation that if private company should hire. However, in the reality, they are not hired as they expected, right? So we hope that policy can get the insight from employees' perspective, so they can develop more effective or efficient policies to be enforced, so that the involvement of people with disability in the workplace can be better in the future. And the second one, for the prospective employers, actually, we want to give impact to the employers that are considering to hire people with disability. Maybe it can open their knowledge about how to engage with people with disabilities. And the third one, to the prospective employees with disabilities, maybe the employees, they can do a matching process, right? What the expectation from the employers, so maybe they can do some self-improvement, whether they have to follow specific courses or have specific skill before applying to the companies, for example, like that. And then the last one is about disability organizations. We believe that people with disability have a lot of engagement with their community and their organizations. So maybe the disability organization can offer or expand their advocacy strategy, yeah, so that people on their community can be included into the workplace. So I think that's all from our group. So we welcome feedback and comments to improve our idea. Thank
Interesting. I the only one looking at the socioeconomic of a person with disability, and I believe this will interest Ibu Dayan if we really would like to provide feedback or questions, perhaps.
Thank you, Buddha. Great work, Group 5, exploring employee options. Exploring employee protection is very important because based on the data, number of people with disability work in the formal area compared to non-disabled people is disabled people work in the Western is higher compared to non-Western.
you. Actually, this is comparing between Western and non-Western comes from our group member idea. We think that we need to compare because we know in nature that countries from Western that we can associate it that as a developed country and Western with developing countries. So in nature, we think that those two types of countries have different stage of inclusiveness, and then the readiness, and then the infrastructure that may create the perception of the employer. Someone comes from a better countries may have more positive perceptions, maybe. It's just the hypothesis actually. So that's why we want to explore more to compare to the developing countries. Maybe other member can add.
Dear Bu Uri,
Oh, yes.
I want to add also. I have experience because I had my master in US. I had internship in just like what we call it bengkel or maybe a rehabilitation center. I saw by myself people with disabilities in the US, they can work even though they are using pipe and then they have a diabetic or whatsoever. And then I saw people with mental illness, they can work. Maybe we need have the data if we want to make a comparison just like make a comparing between maybe Indonesia and some other and some other just like developing and developed countries. And then also in the Netherlands in here, I was a little bit shocked, maybe because of that. It is really for me. It is really interesting if we can comparing condition and then the opportunity. For the Indonesia maybe the government we can see from the lesson learned how people with disability or the government treat them equally or give them just like supporting facilities when they work in the company or in the office. That's my
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, Actually, I also want to add some information about it. Yeah, I totally agree with the previous group members, and we were discussing about it in advance, and we believe that that's pretty much the best perspectives because we are talking about Indonesian and global perspectives of how to deal with issues related to people with disabilities or special needs. And we were actually from varying backgrounds. Some of us are from like continuing our education in Eastern countries, while the others they did that in Western countries. And we believe that when looking at the global perspectives, we need to compare and contrast between the Eastern and Western perspectives. Like my previous friend said earlier, nations pretty much represent the developed and developing countries. So we believe that in order to understand these issues, we need to really look at varying perspectives from the very low like countries with insufficient capabilities in dealing with socio-economic issues related to people with disabilities, and those countries with some advanced approaches. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the intense, very clear explanation from the group 5. Maybe my suggestion when you try to explore and make a comparison, is it possible to be more specific maybe in Indonesia and the specific country rather than Western and non-Western? Because if we are talking about non-Western, maybe in Asia, in Africa, or in other places, and then I think it's different. And then I think the most important is also to include the social and economical situation in different region, particularly on the law enforcement in different country. So I think this is very important on that influence the employers' perception and also acceptance on the employability of people with disabilities. Okay, do we have more time, Bu Ditya, or is there any more participants to ask a question, please? If not, then I can add more questions.
I think Ibu Wuri has prepared like a one-page long list of questions here, Ibu. Is there anyone else who would like to provide feedback or ask questions to Group 5? Please, we still have around 5 more minutes.
I will continue to ask questions.
Yes, Ibu, please.
Right, and then you raised two research questions. First is how do employer perceive on the employability, and then second is what factors influence their perception, right? I think these two research question is very great and important. But when I move into research methods, so I think your research methods must be on the mixed methods because for first question can be explored using the qualitative research, but in the second question, because of factors in then I think better to use the quantitative approach rather than qualitative. Because it is impossible to interview 40 to 60 people, as you mentioned, as your respondents, right? So again, in terms of research methods, maybe you can slightly identify or consider on using mixed method rather than only one method. Okay. I think one thing that the challenge for this study is to get the respondent that meet the requirement that you mentioned, that they have to have 2 years, at least 2 years experience. Yeah. Do you have any strategy on how to achieve or how to reach or how to find the respondent that meet this requirement? Is there any strategy that you plan?
Okay, maybe if I can
Yeah.
give an idea, I think a snowball approach can be effective. So we start from one or two managers from specific companies that need, and then maybe they suggest another potential respondent by getting the reference somehow. Maybe the respondent can get trust for us as the researcher.
Yeah, that's great. That's great strategy. First is snowball, but snowball still needs one people as a gatekeeper, right? So you have to find the right person that may have influence or have a strong network to recommend the colleagues to involve in this study. Yeah. Okay. And then my last question is that the output of your research is also to give a feedback to the disabled organization. Am I right? In your last slide? Yeah. Okay. Can you explain more? Yeah. Can you explain more why this research may influence or may important for disabled people organization?
Okay. Based on my personal experience in my communities, Down syndrome Indonesia, actually we share information one to another, right? So I believe that we have a strong connection between the community. So in terms of information too. So when the community, especially the managing organizations of the community, get information, they can tell to the community member that based on this research, employer perceive us, yeah, as the community with disability, A, B, C, and so on. So what we have to do, right? So I think they can make a movement maybe to elevate their skill together in the community. So I believe it can give more impact that in the community people can feel more empowered than as an individual. So I guess that's a benefit for the disability organization getting the insight from this research.
Yeah, great. So I think it's also helped them to get the data to as a basis for advocate the government and also for the employee to get more acceptance to people with disabilities. Great, group 5, well done, awesome.
Good job. 5. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Group 5, and also Ibu Wuri for the detailed feedbacks and also question. Please join me to give virtual applause and appreciation for Group 5. An interesting research that is not only perhaps beneficial for in terms of like science, but also it will give practical benefits or outcomes for the government, the organization, as well as people with disability. Right, next up is Group 6. So I will invite Dr. Iqmal, Diani, Nuriza, Lailun, Laurencia, Atif, Naila, Rizka, and Tamar. Oh, there's quite many people in Group 6. So the time is yours, please.
Hi, thank you, Kak Aditya. I'm gonna share my screen. So our group will be going to play a poster video for 10 minutes, and then I'm as a representative from the group will explain a little bit in addition to that. Wait a second. But I have a big problem. Can we play this?
Do you have access to share your screen, Naomi?
Actually, yes, but I just cannot share it if I open the video. Wait a second, let me open it in Google.
Is it like a shared file that you can perhaps send to us?
Yeah, wait. Actually, yes. Wait a second. Wait.
Hi and good evening,
Sorry.
everyone.
Sorry.
Not a problem.
Where is it? Is that? I'm not sure what. Oh man. Sorry, I thought it's as simple as just opening the video and then I can. Okay, I will just send the link. Could you please help to?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, guys, for the time. Oh, okay. I should have. Okay. Share sound. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Okay, yes, we can. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Let me know if you can hear the.
Hi and good evening, everyone. This is the poster from our group from Group 6. And this is our group mate, Dr. Iqmal Hisham Mattah, Dayan Sendun Anak Belajar, Nuriza Bazrila binti Saiful Bazli, Lailun Nahar, Laurencia Aptik Evangeli, Atif Muhammad Sheikh, Naila Rushda Kalisa, Rizka Rahmananda, and Tamar Nomi. So this is the title of our research proposal, to identifying the barriers and supportive factors in the inclusive school that children with disabilities require to feel safe and motivated to study. Based on the title, we have agreed to compare barriers and support factors in inclusive schools between Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Malaysia and find the suitable factors from the data to make the children with disability to feel safe. Mainstream schools require inclusive education. Schools are environments that give opportunities for children to build social relationships with others, as well as various emotions during school activities and relationships with others. According to McZays, school environments means the extent to which school settings promote student safety and student health, which may include topics such as the physical plan, the academic environment, available physical and mental health supports and services, and the fairness and adequacy of disciplinary procedures, as supported by relevant research and an assessment of validity. It is reported that not only academic engagement plays an important role in shaping school engagement, but also social and peer relations, especially for disability students. For example, having good relationship with teachers and peers will contribute to children's school engagement. The presence of positive student-teacher relationships alone does not translate to academic success, but students that establish a strong bond with their teacher do perform better than students whose relationships with teachers involve some sort of conflict. Teachers can help improve academic success in students by clearly expressing positive expectations for each student, presenting students with equal opportunities to participate in class discussions, and expressing to students that they are confident in their ability to succeed when it comes to their coursework. However, a number of children with special needs reported that they feel uncomfortable joining in school activities, and it is affected by children's characteristic, social status, and cultural background. Young people with disabilities often face both physical and perceived barriers to participation. Few activity venues are fully adapted to ensure the active participation of all young people with a wide variety of disabilities. Although more and more venues are beginning to have adaptations made, this is a slow process and levels of accessibility vary widely. As many young people with disabilities will have experienced access problems in the past, they are often also reluctant to join new organizations, fearing the stigma and awkwardness of not being able to access the activity. This shows that the implementation of inclusive education is facing challenges such as providing needs-based education and other supports in mainstream schools to children with disabilities in order to develop their development and ability. There are safety issues. Children with physical, developmental, intellectual, emotional, and sensory disabilities have a higher risk to be bullied than other children in the school. Others have motivation issues. Despite having the problem to provoke themselves to be encouraged, it is necessary to gain deeper understanding of students' personalities, motivation levels, and talents on an individual basis. And this is a research question that will be asked to the participants. The first one is, how can the external barriers and supportive factors make the children with disability to feel safe in inclusive school? And how can the external barriers and supportive factors make the children with disability to feel motivated in inclusive school? And the last one is, how do those factors or people who are involved in children's school microsystem correlate and affect one another? This question will probably provide some answers that are not the same as the majority of other participants, and that's where the data collection process takes place.
Next, I'll be explaining on the methodology for this research proposal. The methodology for this study is qualitative through FGD and interview to collect the data. The research question will all be tested in 3 countries, such as Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Malaysia. The participants of this study will include the children with disabilities, the peers, the teachers, other school staff, and the school principal. We will analyze the collected data and information by coding, identification of themes, recording, categorization, explore the linkage between categories, thematic analysis, and report writing. So, there will be 2 research stages that will be used to answer the first and the second research question that have been mentioned earlier. So as you can see in the poster, we will be interviewing the participants in school microsystem for the first stage, and for the second stage is by FGD to determine the participants' behavior and school system that affects one another. So, in both stages, there will be a few themes that we have listed down to interview them. For the first stage, for example, it will be about the school facilities, communities, and regulation to accommodate their disabilities. Another example of the theme is how they perceive the relation between their safety issue with the motivation to study, and also on how the value and culture in the school affect their motivation. Moving on to the second stage, the themes will be more likely to be like this, which is their perception of disability and specific children with disabilities, and also their knowledge on managing the technical inclusivity, which include on dealing with the disabilities that the student has. Another example of the theme is about their knowledge on managing the emotional or participation inclusivity in school setting. To answer the third research question, FGD will be conducted among teachers, school staff, school principal, and the children's school peers, both mixed and divided into their roles to identify whether their behavior can affect one another. Next, what is its significance? There are several issues in implementing inclusive education, such as safety, motivation, school system readiness, including facilities and culture. Considering the challenges in the implementation of inclusive education, there are schools that successfully implement the inclusive education. Therefore, determining the barriers and good practices in inclusive education will help the school in deciding the suitable inclusive system for children. So, I guess that's all from our group. And thank you so much for lending your ears and your precious time to listen to our presentation today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. And also, I just want to add that because we didn't put the literature review in the poster, but actually in the background part, there are the references from our literature review that there are issues in Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Malaysia about children with disabilities facing safety and motivation issues, as well as there is another research, I forget by whom, I will see the document later, that they actually have conducted something like similar to our research, but they do not try to see whether those factors correlate and affect one another. So they found that, okay, so like actors in the microsystem of the school, like teachers, school staffs, can affect their knowledge and their behavior can affect children with disabilities, safety, and also motivation, but they do not analyze, okay, whether teachers' behavior can affect the school's structure, system, regulation can affect the teachers and the peers or the school staff's behavior towards children with disability. So that's what makes our research quite different, and we're gonna do that through FGD. So yeah, I think that's all. Thank you so much for your time, and sorry for the technical error. Thank you.
Wow, congratulations, Group 6. And I believe everyone is really impressed by this proposal. I mean, from hearing the presentation from Group 6, I got the impression that when we come together, these three countries or students from these three countries doing a collective work on a particular issue, I believe that it can contribute to even like a greater findings, yeah, perhaps like a more comparative, and then draw recommendation from there. I believe Ibu Elga Andriana is already opening her mic, Ibu. So please, the time is yours, Ibu.
Thank you so much, Buditya, and thank you for Group 6, Tamar, Dr. Iqmal, Lailur, from Bangladesh, and the other members of Group 6. Thank you so much for your presentation, and also thank you for citing my name and Professor.
It's an additional point, Bu, untuk, for Group 6.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So I found your research topic is very important, because it is very significant to identify barriers and supports or resources, since the goal of inclusive education is actually to remove barriers, or to erase barriers that limiting the participation of all learners. I would say all learners, not only children with disabilities. I think that is one point that I want to suggest. So if we want to do research on inclusive education, we as a researcher, I think we need to try to be inclusive as well in our research. And that is, we are not talking only about children with disabilities, but all children. So if in your research in the future, I really do hope that this could be, put into reality somehow, someday. It would be great to research not only motivation and safety of children with disabilities, but also children without disabilities. So doing it inclusively, so we are talking about inclusive education. We are conducting inclusive research as well. Okay, and I also love the involvement of different contexts, between Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Malaysia. I think this is very, very interesting. As we know, we are very much looking at the Western perspective, so really getting results and perspectives from this country will be very, very valuable. So because I trust that we will get cultural or contextual factors, from Bangladesh, Indonesia, and Malaysia, and those factors could be inclusive or exclusionary. So it is very interesting to find out what are the cultural or contextual factors that, supporting inclusivity, or it sounds or it looks inclusive, but in fact, it's not. Yeah, it is exclusionary, for example. So yeah, I think it would be a great contribution to the academic literature and also to the practice if we get those comparison. I have one topic that I'm very eager to discuss with this group, yeah, and that is on the discourse of inclusive school. I'm very intrigued with this discourse, with this term, yeah, inclusive school, because I think apparently that typical discourse, yeah, inclusive school is something that popular or commonly used in Indonesian in the Indonesian context, and maybe also in Bangladesh and Malaysian context. Is it the case? Because in Indonesian context, it is like it is very common, and it's lay people just use that term all the time. Yeah, not only inclusive school, we also use inclusive classroom, inclusion children, inclusion teacher, inclusion parents, etc. Yeah, those what is it? Impact on adopting inclusive education, and then translated it into something that maybe not really appropriate, yeah, by using that term or discourse inclusive school, yeah, because I understand that sometimes you know, we use the language because we think it's powerful, you know, to education, but that is only one hand. On the other hand, that use of discourse can also be really disempowering and pose exclusionary pressure. Yeah, because when you say inclusive school, that means there are schools that are not inclusive, you know, and other impacts coming from those the use of that discourse. I hope you get what I mean, because in our context, we in the Indonesian context, we used to have those schools that are you know, chosen by the government and labeled as inclusive schools. We understand the goodwill behind it, but on the contrary, it creates non-inclusive schools. You know what I mean? That other schools are, I'm not inclusive, so I can reject. I can say no to children with disabilities. Yeah. And also within those inclusive, what so-called inclusive itself, then they start to label children with disability as inclusion children. Yeah, so I saw this discourse as well in other in the others groups research proposal, starting to use the discourse of inclusion children, and then inclusion room, and then inclusion creates, you know, division, you know, like, and it's really going further away from the goal of inclusive education. Yeah, in inclusive education, we are trying to, you know, erase those what is it, walls, yeah, or divisions or categorization. Yes, exactly. So be careful with using those labels. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Ro. And then let me see. I have some notes here. I also would love to encourage, if you have that kind of design of research back to the session conducted by Eva Snadova, if you remember. It is very powerful and empowering if we situate our participants as co-researchers, the children as co-researchers and not as purely passive participant where we conducted interviews and FGD on them, but involving them as researchers themselves. I think that could be excellent. I have one question. I don't really quite understand by what you mean with the external barriers and supportive factors. So if you mention external, does that mean you have internal barriers, or can you please clarify on that? I think that's all I could add to your research design. And I think I have some other notes, but let's see if other participants here would also love to share their opinions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bu Elga. So to answer your last question, because you know how children with disabilities see themselves, I believe can also can also affect how they feel safe and motivated, which is affected by so many things outside of the school. That's why that's why we put it as external factors. So for example, we do not say that internal as in the children disabilities. How do you say it? Yeah, I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry if that's not clear, but okay. Before you respond, maybe I also want to confirm another comment from you. Sorry, but so I'm very interested with your comments on having the children with disabilities as our co-researcher. So what we have is that I'm not really sure how to make a co-researcher system ideal, but what we have is in the first stage, we're going to interview only the children and try to see what are things or people that you think can make you feel safe or not and motivated or not, something like that. And afterwards, we hope they guide us to, okay, this is how we feel, like we map all of them, even if we already like kind of target other actors in the microsystem as well. But in the second stage, we hope that after from our interview with the children, then we can, it lead us to like certain teams or certain actors, will be, it will be lovely if you can give more examples on how to make it in the implementation. I mean,
you mean involving children with disabilities as researchers?
I
think having stages, as you just mentioned, sometimes help us as researchers to prepare and conduct our research in more calm manner, see how it goes, style. And this is very okay in qualitative research, especially if you are very new to involving children with disability as researchers. But also starting from the beginning, designing that research with children with disabilities is also possible. Ask them whether they have concern around motivation and safety, and what do they know about what are the things that make them motivated and feel safe, for example. Yeah. So yeah, it really depends on to what degree you want to involve the children with disabilities. Yeah, so you can choose. Yeah, but maybe for those who are very new in involving children with disabilities in their research, you could start like partly, if not fully, and then in your subsequent research, maybe you would feel more confident in involving them as researchers. And also, again, I would encourage to involve all children, not only children with disabilities, because I think motivation and feeling safe is problems. Those problems belongs to all children, not only children with disabilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. Thank you so much, Welga, for your
Thank
comments.
you. I really wish that someday it could be realized. Yeah, Budit. Yeah. Ro is raising his hand. Yeah.
Please, Ro.
Hi. Thank you all very much. A really great presentation. Group 6. Congratulations. Very interesting feedback from Ms. Algo. This is an extremely relevant subject theme to be covered, and really interesting. Hope to see it come to life and look at the real world results and such. Just a couple of comments. One, in terms of internal versus external factors, I think maybe we're playing semantics, having communication challenges, but I think maybe a better word or terminology would be, in terms of internal factors, could be intrinsic factors, intrinsic motivation that inherent. Yes, intrinsic as a synonym to funnel. Yeah, that's just a random comment. The second comment is a little more practical and critical in nature. So no offense intended. This presentation was extremely well put together, especially the research methodology was extremely interesting, very much potential in there. Just a little constructive feedback. I hope no offense is taken. As well put together as it was, it's just that the introduction slides and screens were a little too informational, expositional, descriptive, as in a little too much time, effort, words, and such. It could ideally be to the written essay and the thesis and such. Whereas on presentation, we would typically want to see brief bullet points, phrasings, terminology, as in not long descriptions like being read to us in real time. That's what the essay is for, as in we're looking for keywords, key phrases, key points, and not really the full story. But otherwise, an awesome, brilliant presentation. Thank you, Group 6. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ro. Yeah, thank you so much. That is a really great feedback on, managing our presentation. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Naomi and Group 6 for the excellent presentation, and Buelka and Ro for the comments and the constructive feedback. I do agree. I would like to see this research in real life. Perhaps after this, Group 6 can identify a potential research funding, to realize these ideas. And for the Indonesia context, I believe CLSC would love to join as a group research member, perhaps, Welka. All right, last but not least, we will invite Group 7 to present the proposal of the mini research or the research itself. Please, Group 7. Oh, so I believe this is perhaps based on their personal experience of barriers that university students with disabilities face in studying abroad. And I believe all of the group members in group 7 are international students. Yeah, please, there is Alano Tena Olan Sayuja.
Okay, hello everyone. So I'll try to share my screen here. Okay, so we're from group 7. We have our members here. Alana Nasir, she is from Saudi Arabia, and I'm from Indonesia. We have Olan Rawajo Victor, he's from Nigeria, and also Sayuja Ranjitkar, she's from Nepal. And our group's research title is Barriers that University Students with Disabilities Face in Studying Abroad. Okay, and then this is our table of contents. We will have our introduction and our aim and research questions, our literature review, our research methodology, and references. So studying abroad could be one of the fantastic opportunities for any student that comes with countless advantages. However, students with disabilities have to face a wide range of problems when opting for abroad studies, such as financial and social status, facilities, and even cultural beliefs. The study aims to see how those factors act as barriers to. We believe that this area of study can have a significant impact, as we can see that learning process needs to have a universal design and should be equitable based on individuals' needs. In relation to intersectionality, students with disabilities are influenced by multiple factors such as gender, nationality, age, religion, etc., and affected more with the additional prevalence of social stigmatization. Thus, further study of barriers can be helpful in understanding perceived future barriers to develop interventions that could ease access to higher studies for students with disabilities.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Vena, for the short background of our topic. Further continuing on that, we want to explore our topic within 4 major research questions, and they are, how does financial background act as a barrier to people with disabilities in studying abroad? How do cultural background and belief act as a barrier to people with disabilities in studying abroad? How does language proficiency act as a barrier to people with disabilities in study abroad? And final one is, how do perceived benefits and barriers to study abroad vary depending on the type of disability and demographic characteristic such as gender, age, marital status, and area of study. So on the whole, we wanted to see general components which in regular are part of our daily life, but they may also act as barrier, which in this case, few of them could be financial background, social status, culture background, beliefs, and language proficiency. So next slide, please. Okay. So to support our research, we have studied on already available research is done on this topic to validate our research and to find possible research gaps. We will be discussing some of the barriers that we have identified and supported by other researchers as for understanding of existing barriers. So the review of literature focuses on exploring the internal and external barriers faced by students with disabilities, and these barriers are associated with attitudinal barriers, environmental barriers, institutional barriers, and communication barriers. So the point number 1 that I would like to discuss is financial and social status. So Tuil and Guzo 2012 have stated that the financial burden and availability of support are considered as one of the barriers to study abroad. Consideration of cost in terms of additional service required to assist even simple day-to-day routine may attract additional cost. The cost incurred for the provision of accommodation of like personal assistant or interpreter for prolonged period may create issues for fundings. And studies suggest that assessment and time-intensive work and effort is needed to execute meaningful and accessible study abroad programs. So similarly, social status can also directly affect the decision to continue study abroad. And Bianchi et al. 2021 have described in their result that poverty background was significantly associated with low self-esteem, school dropout, and peer acceptances. So to sum up, in terms of financial and social status, we wanted to explore does like forms of existing scholarships and financial assistance is like sustainable enough or holistic enough for a student with disability. And with that question, my part has come to the end. Up next is Victor, who will continue with remaining points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Olan. I think perhaps, but it's breaking. The connection is breaking. I'm not sure if this is my problem from my side, but still, I cannot hear you clearly, Victor. Yes, it's a bit breaking, Victor. Yeah, and not and not.
Can you hear now?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay. Sorry about that. Probably in the internet connection. So the point number 2 that we have is the belief, culture, and belief, culture, and religious background of students trying to study abroad, disability students trying to study abroad. From the literature review, we discovered that it is imperative to note that belief, culture, and religion play a very important and significant role in shaping every sector and phase of human existence. And our society can be better knitted together when culture, the values, and the beliefs are better managed and utilized. So the people with disabilities are not also exempted from this society. They are part of the society. So by the time we integrate the people living with disabilities with the cultural beliefs and laws of the society, we could as well gain advantage from what we can see for the people living with disabilities trying to study abroad. So Balfour stated that students with disabilities coming from Africa don't have a challenge with the language. And they are also brilliant, or also that is they also have good performance in their education. But students with disabilities coming from Asia country tend to have language proficiency and they tend to have challenges in communication. So what we try to look at in this belief, culture, and religion is actually affecting students living with disabilities studying abroad, particularly when it comes to cultural belief. Many tends to not believe what they believe in their background, come to the Western world, the civilization in the Western world, trying to affect them and shape their original belief or their background belief. So they have challenges towards that. So we want to find out how is that one actually affecting. We also want to actually find out how religion is also affecting, because somehow we have countries that their religion is like putting restriction on how they tend to behave, on how they tend to talk, on how they tend to dress, or how they tend to behave. So when you see such students traveling to a society that is quoted as free in terms of free, really freedom of speech or freedom of expression, they tend to have challenges in coping with that. And we also find out that most African students also find challenges when it comes to probably Asian world or other Western worlds. Specifically, I will see that in Malaysia, that presently you find a couple of people, they are always glued to their phones. They don't tend to relate. So when you're trying to relate with them, they tend to glue to their phones, always pressing phone. So most students we want to find out that students living with disabilities are they really all sick when they come around, not trying to find anybody to relate with. So these are some of the things that we are trying to see how these cultural belief systems and religion are trying to shape the life of people with disabilities trying to study abroad. And we hope this will also help us to be able to get good policies towards ameliorating some of these challenges. And the last one is the physical infrastructure. Though the Western world is actually exploiting, from what we have learned in this lecture, we discovered that there are a lot of build-ups in trying to have what is called an inclusive design that makes life to be easier for students studying abroad to have access virtually to every part of the campus or of the facilities. That is very important. In terms of probably accommodation, that is still very, that could still be a very challenging area for students with disability trying to study abroad, finding a very good accommodation that could assist their day-to-day activities. But in terms of access to classrooms and recreational centers or sporting arenas or libraries, we also want to find out how it's very much easier for them to have access without any too much relying on the caregivers as much as possible. So these are some of the areas that our research is trying to focus. Thank you very much, Professor Bertrand. Am I correct? The rest of my group.
Thank you, Victor.
Yeah.
Can you move the slide? Hi, everyone from Sydney. Evan, can you move the slide, please? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, here for this study, the research design is a qualitative research design. The reason behind why we choose the research design, according to Creswell, he mentioned that through using qualitative research design, it will help the researcher to develop a level of detail by having a high level involvement with an actual experience. And the participants for this study will be the study will be conducted in several countries, and the participant will be adults, students with disabilities. The students who are studying in universities. For the instrument of the study is a semi-structured interview. And the data analysis, we decided to choose thematic data analysis that relies on constant comparative analysis. And for the ethic issues, we put in consideration that we need to take the approval from the targeted universities, and also we take to consideration the respected recruitment or the participant, and the participants supposed to supposed to have clear and enough information about the research studies, as well as we as a researcher need to make sure that the consent of this the participant will be sought in every stage of conducting the data analysis. Thank you so much.
Well, that's all from our group. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Group 7, for the excellent presentation and important issue to be explored, particularly around the experience of students with disabilities studying abroad. And I'm sure, as I am international student myself a few years ago, I found like difficulties adjusting with new environment, let alone children with disabilities, with the complex intersecting barriers they might face. And I really appreciate that this also a multi-country project, a research project, isn't it? If I may know which countries that you plan to implement the research, Group 7, in the proposal, I mean.
We're trying to look at some of the selected countries in Africa, because we have so many Nigerians coming abroad to study abroad. So we tend to look at that. Then we pick also from Ghana. I could also have a friend that can give us contact from Ghana, and also from Kenya.
All right, thank you. So before I open to Ibu Wuriat or Ibu Elka, perhaps anyone else, students or participants, have questions or feedback for Group 7? Please, if you do have questions or feedback. Yeah, if not, I have one question, Group 7. Actually, pretty interesting in this topic as well, because from my experience, I do have colleagues or friends who also was a student at my university when I was doing my PhD, and she's also like a student with disabilities. But I saw that instead of barriers, there are obviously barriers, but there are also like a supporting or enabling factors in the university, be it like physical or non-physical accessibility, that enable her to be, participating well in the study as well as society. I mean, like, I think interacting with disability communities or other, like, for example, because she's doing like health science, like when she did like a placement. So I wonder also if you also explore in addition to barriers that might help or support a student with disabilities studying abroad.
So actually, like in particular, we didn't like research for like enabling factors, but like in some way, like scholarship itself is a enabling factor, because it gives you like immense opportunity to go abroad, meet new friends, learn new things. And as you yourself said that you were exposed to new culture. So when we were like researching for the topic, one thing that I came across was the subject itself, there were the subject itself could be barrier, but like when the research was done, they found out that the particular subject attracted more students with disability than other. Even if there was an issue, there was this background and support available for student to take that course. And like as you have said, we haven't explored like enabling components like in that depth, but we did find some of the components that came across in the research. So we were thinking that, so particularly I was thinking that when I was doing review literature, I thought that maybe student with disability who have more physical disability would be going for study abroad. But a few of the data showed that they were lesser in comparison to other mental health or learning disability. So there are components which was new to us as well. So maybe my friends would like to add something on that.
I think it's a good point, Sayuja. Now, where you were explaining, I was thinking you could also use the barrier as an entry point to also uncover the enabling support or environment to understand what could be done better. For example, what support have they received and what could be done better, perhaps, to address those barriers. Okay, Bu Wuri and Bu Elka, if you have addition, I believe Bu Wuri has a extensive experience of being a student abroad, yeah, Bu Wuri?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Well done, Group 7, for your idea. I think it's a good point and very important topic that need to be explored. So I agree with the statement from Bu Ditya. Why this group only focusing on barrier? Why it's not enabling? In my perspective, it's better to explore based on their own experience of studying abroad. So if they are asking about their experiences, so it must be compared between the barriers and also the enabling situation that make them can continue their study. I think you have to see both perspective rather than only focusing only on barriers. Yeah. Again, because based on my own experience when I did my master and PhD in the UK, I found that I experienced more innate and accessible and support rather than barriers. So that's why I think this best practice on from the abroad can be adopted by university in Indonesia in our countries. Okay, my question is, you have 4 research questions that identify the barriers based on financial, cultural, and language proficiency, and also perceived benefits and barriers from different characteristics. So my question is, from these 4 aspects, which one that more focusing on the issue related with disabled? Because I think anyone has a problem in terms of financial, cultural, and language proficiency even for non-disabled, right? But is there any issue that more focusing on the issue of disabled people?
I agree, but particularly when I was student, I have financial problem as well. Always waiting for my scholarship to be back.
Yeah, true. We rely on scholarship. I think you don't have to answer my question right now, but you have you can think and consider later about issue that more focusing on the issue that may faced by disabled people when they go abroad for study for this study. Okay, and then my second question is related with the research methods. You mentioned that the participant will be from several countries, right? Yeah. Okay. Do you have any specific area on the several country? Maybe the barriers of study abroad, maybe let's say Indonesia to Malaysia, must be different with Indonesian students study in Australia or other countries. Do you have any particular country that need to be explored, the experience?
So what we were thinking to do, like when we mentioned several countries, is if it's possible, we would like to do like online research, so that as in terms of group member, we are from like 4 different countries, and 2 of the members are studying in like foreign country. So what we were thinking, like from our background, we can like, or from our like from like our in our own country, we can approach like our universities and try to find different students, so that the data would collect can have that variation that we want to see in our research. So we're planning to do that, and that was back of on our mind when we wrote that. So we would be getting like, so we were thinking like we could get data from Nepal, and our friend Eleanor is from Saudi Arabia and she's studying in Australia, and Ivan is originally from Indonesia, she's studying in Malaysia, and Victor is from like Nigeria. So we wanted to bring that variation from like where we are based now. So that was our plan.
Okay. Thank you for your explanation. Great job, Group 7.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to us.
Yeah, well done. That's awesome, Group 7. I mean, I'm very excited. Like, I mean, with the online data collection, you might get like a more perspective, even like a global perspective of student with disabilities studying abroad, and it will be a very interesting findings to learn should you continue to do this research in real situation. Okay, so I think that will be the end of presentation for today. I'm very I really appreciate all the great works, and while listening to all the presentation, the scale of work and the enthusiasm and motivation that you bring to this conversation has really pleased us as the committee, and we shall continue this conversation on Thursday, and we will anticipate and excitedly waiting for the presentation from Group 1, 3, 5, 4, and 8. So thank you very much for from me, and I will give the time back to Kuni. Thank you, Kuni. And please join me to give applause and appreciation to Group 7 as well, and to everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Dr. Ditya for being a great moderator as usual. And thank you to all of the presenters for today's student-led conference for sharing your wonderful and insightful ideas for your research proposal. And I would like to give our gratitude as well to the audiences for your enthusiasm and active participation for today. Now, before we close the session, I would like to announce some points. First of all, a friendly reminder for everyone that Student-Led Conference Day 2 will be held on Thursday, 14th of October 2021 at 5 to 7 p.m. Jakarta time. And we will have 4 groups who have not presented their ideas yet today. So make sure to join us once again on Thursday. I'm sure you wouldn't want to miss out what great minds have come up with. So please make sure that you check into your Zoom accordingly. And also we'll have Professor David Evans as one of our expert commentator as well. And secondly, I would like to inform all the participants that the committee is looking for volunteers to make a 15-second video about your impression of the summer course. So for further information, I guess you may contact your student liaison, especially about the details of the video and where to submit it. And lastly, to close our session today, I believe the committee is preparing a video about gamelan. Gamelan is the indigenous orchestra type of the islands of Java and Bali in Indonesia, consisting largely of several varieties of gongs and various sets of tuned metal instruments that are struck with mallets. A particular song in the video is titled Gundul Gundul Pacul, a traditional song with Javanese language talking about an advice for leaders in carrying out the mandate given by people. The song depicted how an ideal leader should be. An ideal leader should not be arrogant, careless, and playing around while carrying out a mandate. And with this song, I would like to once again thank everyone. I'll see you on Thursday. Have a good day ahead. You may now leave this meeting. Thank you, everyone.